story. Warm winter. Winter in rural California was serene, with snow blanketing the vast fields and small houses nestled beneath thick layers of white. The barren branches of trees stretched skyward, their stark outlines softened by the falling snow. The quiet stillness of the countryside was broken only by the gentle whisper of wind weaving through the barren branches and the occasional sound of snow crunching underfoot. In the distance, Christmas lights twinkling from the village created a magical dance of colors, their glow casting a warm invitation across the icy landscape. Yet, for 10-year-old Tom, the beauty of the season felt like a cruel contrast to the bottomless pit of loneliness that consumed him. A week earlier, Tom had lost his grandfather, the last of his family by blood, following a sudden illness. 3 years before that, a tragic accident had taken his parents, leaving the boy orphaned and under his grandfather's care. Now, sitting alone by the frosted window, Tom watched as snow-covered paths glistened in the distance, mirroring the emptiness in his heart. The weight of grief and loss pressed down on him, each day feeling colder and more isolating than the last. He could barely bring himself to look at the Christmas decorations that his grandfather had once lovingly put up each year. Christmas had become a painful reminder of everything he had lost, and a deep melancholy settled over him, making him feel as though joy would never return. Not far away, in a modest cottage warmed by a crackling fireplace, 11-year-old Emma sat knitting by her Granny Edith's side. The room glistened with the light of the fire, its flickering flames casting soft shadows on the walls. Emma and her granny had always found joy in small things, like baking gingerbread cookies, knitting warm clothes, and watching the snow fall. Their life was simple, but it was filled with a sense of contentment and love that made every day special. Emma had no memory of her parents, having been adopted by Granny Edith when she was 6. Granny Edith had been grieving the loss of her husband, but Emma's arrival had transformed her life, giving her a reason to smile again. Together, they had built a home, bound by the simple, powerful love that sustained them through every hardship. When they heard of Tom's loss, their hearts ached for him. They knew how heavy the burden of loneliness could be, and resolved to help him light the way forward toward healing and hope. One snowy evening, they set out to visit Tom, carrying a basket filled with warm milk, freshly baked cookies, and a hand-knitted hat. The snow-covered path leading to Tom's house was slippery, but they walked carefully, their hearts set on comforting the boy. When they arrived, Tom opened the door reluctantly. His face, pale and shadowed by grief, softened as he saw Emma and Granny Edith standing there, their warm smiles inviting him to let them in. Inside, the small room was dim, lit only by the faint glow of a flickering firelight. The atmosphere was heavy, the silence almost suffocating. They sat together around the small wooden table, and Granny Edith served the milk and cookies. At first, the meal was marked by an awkward silence. Tom stared at his cup, unable to speak, while Emma glanced at him with quiet compassion. Finally, Granny Edith broke the silence, her voice steady but kind. She spoke of her own loss, encouraging Tom to cherish those who are still with us, even in the face of overwhelming grief. Emma added her own story, sharing how she had felt abandoned and lonely as a child, but had come to understand that family isn't just about blood ties, it's about the love and support of those who choose to stand by you. As they spoke, Tom began to feel a shift in his heart. The words of comfort, the shared stories of sorrow and resilience, seemed to drive away the winter's chill that had settled inside him. By the time they finished their meal, a faint warmth had begun to return to the room. Later, they stepped outside into the sparkling winter night, the snow glistening softly under the light of the stars and the distant Christmas decorations. Emma handed Tom a sparkler, and together they lit it. The sparklers burst into life, their light creating shimmering reflections on the snow. The children laughed as they waved them in the air, creating patterns of light that seemed to dance against the darkness. For the first time in years, Tom felt something other than sorrow, a sense of belonging, of being cared for. As they walked back to Granny Edith's house, Tom felt a glimmer of hope stir inside him. Emma and Granny Edith were not just offering him comfort for the night, they were offering him a new life, one filled with love and belonging. Granny Edith had already decided that Tom would come live with them. Tom suddenly realized that despite not being bound by blood or any family relationship or kinship, living under the same roof could create a family, a bond just as strong. Family isn't just about shared genes. It's about the people who open their hearts to you, who welcome you in and make you feel loved and cared for. That Christmas, Tom discovered that even in the face of loss, there could be hope. Bound by the simple, powerful love of his newfound family, he began to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. The season wasn't just a reminder of what he had lost, but also a celebration of what he had gained. A family who would stand by him, helping him to heal and to build a new life filled with warmth, joy, and belonging. And as the winter nights grew longer, Tom realized that he was no longer alone. With Granny Edith and Emma by his side, he had found the family he had been yearning for, a family that was built on love, compassion, and the willingness to care for one another, no matter the past.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the English podcast. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Andy. How are you, Sophia?
I'm doing great, Andy. How about you?
I'm fantastic, and I'm really excited about today's topic.
Me too. Today, we're talking about the heartwarming story, Warm Winter.
That's right. It's a touching story about loss, love, and finding a sense of belonging, all set in a serene winter landscape.
Exactly. And today, we're going to help our listeners with some real English vocabulary and phrases they can use when talking about this story or describing similar situations.
Perfect. So why don't we start with our vocabulary preview?
Great idea. Our first word is serene.
Serene.
Serene means calm and peaceful, just like the winter landscape in the story.
Right, the story describes a serene winter in rural England with snow blanketing the vast fields.
Next, we have nestled.
Nestled.
Nestled means comfortably settled into a place, like the small houses nestled beneath thick layers of snow in the story.
Our next word is barren.
Barren.
Barren means empty or lifeless, and in the story, we see barren branches stretching skyward.
Up next is twinkling.
Twinkling, twinkling.
Twinkling describes something sparkling with light, like Christmas lights twinkling in the village.
Now let's talk about modest.
Modest.
Modest means simple and humble. Emma and Granny Edith live in a modest cottage filled with warmth and love.
Next we have vast.
Vast.
Vast describes something very large, like the vast snow-covered fields in the story.
Our next word is glistened.
Glistened, glistened.
Glistened means to shine or sparkle softly, like how the snow glistened under the starlight.
Another important word is contentment.
Contentment, contentment.
Contentment means a feeling of satisfaction and happiness with what you have. Emma and Granny Edith found contentment in their simple life.
Let's talk about unconditional.
Unconditional, unconditional.
Unconditional means without conditions or limits, like the unconditional love that Granny Edith showed Emma and Tom.
Next, we have flickering.
Flickering, flickering.
Flickering means a light that shines unsteadily, just like the flickering firelight in Tom's small room.
Up next is awkward.
Awkward.
Awkward means uncomfortable or uneasy, like the awkward silence during their first meal together.
Another great word is melancholy.
Melancholy, melancholy.
Melancholy means a deep sadness, which Tom felt as he sat by the frosted window.
Now let's discuss transform.
Transform, transform.
Transform means to change completely, like how Emma's presence transformed Granny Edith's life.
Our next word is belonging.
Belonging, belonging.
Belonging means feeling accepted and included, which Tom found with his new family.
And lastly, we have enduring.
Enduring.
Enduring means lasting a long time, like the enduring love Granny Edith offered. Great, now let's move on to some useful phrases.
First up, we have snow blanketing.
Snow blanketing.
This means snow covering everything like a cozy blanket over the landscape.
Next is Christmas lights twinkling.
Christmas lights twinkling.
This describes the charming lights sparkling throughout the village.
We also have frosted window.
Frosted window.
A window covered with frost, perfect for looking out on a snowy day.
How about crackling fireplace?
Crackling fireplace.
That's the sound of a warm fire burning in the cottage.
Next is joy in simple things.
Joy in simple things.
A phrase that really describes Emma and Granny Edith's way of life.
Let's not forget family by blood.
Family by blood.
This means the family you're biologically related to, like Tom and his grandfather.
Another one is snow-covered path.
Snow-covered path.
A trail blanketed with snow, often leading to warm places like home.
How about sparkling winter night?
Sparkling winter night.
It paints a magical picture of a snowy evening under a sky full of stars.
We also have shimmering reflections.
Shimmering reflections.
This describes light dancing on surfaces like snow or water, creating a dreamy effect.
Lastly, we have light the way forward.
Light the way forward.
A powerful phrase symbolizing hope and guidance, helping someone move through tough times.
And there we have it. 10 beautiful phrases to enrich your English vocabulary.
Let's move on to some advanced phrases.
First up, we have blanketed the vast fields.
Blanketed the vast fields.
This phrase means snow covering the large fields completely.
Next is weave through the barren branches.
Weave through the barren branches.
This describes how something moves smoothly through empty tree branches.
We also have the weight of grief and loss.
The weight of grief and loss.
This phrase talks about the heavy emotional burden of sadness.
How about a bottomless pit of loneliness?
A bottomless pit of loneliness.
It describes an overwhelming and seemingly endless feeling of isolation.
Another one is cherish those who are still with us.
Cherish those who are still with us.
This phrase encourages valuing the people who remain in our lives despite loss.
Let's not forget found joy in small things.
Found joy in small things.
A beautiful way to describe finding happiness in simple moments of life.
Next, we have drove away the winter's chill.
Drove away the winter's chill.
This phrase symbolizes bringing warmth and comfort to someone during a cold or difficult time.
What about a magical dance of colors?
A magical dance of colors.
This describes a vibrant and enchanting display, like Christmas lights sparkling in the night.
We also have bound by the simple, powerful love.
Bound by the simple, powerful love.
This phrase emphasizes a deep connection formed by genuine, heartfelt affection.
Lastly, we have light the way.
Light the way.
A beautiful phrase about guiding someone toward hope and a brighter future.
And there we have it, 10 advanced phrases to elevate your English vocabulary. Let's dive into today's beautiful story, Andy. It's set in a quiet, snow-covered rural area in California, where the stillness of winter is only broken by the occasional whisper of wind.
That sounds so serene. It must have been quite magical, especially with the contrast of the sparkling snow and the warmth of the nearby village. But the story centers around 10-year-old Tom, who's dealing with some incredibly heavy emotions after losing both his parents and, more recently, his grandfather.
Yes, Tom's grief is palpable throughout the story. Even though the world around him is bathed in the quiet beauty of winter, he feels an overwhelming sense of loneliness. The Christmas decorations, once a source of joy, have become a painful reminder of everything he's lost.
It's heart-wrenching to think about how a season meant for celebration can feel so isolating for someone like Tom. But then Emma and her Granny Edith come into the picture, offering their kindness and warmth.
Exactly. Despite their own losses, Granny Edith and Emma understand that even in the darkest times, It's the presence of others that can make a difference. They're not just offering comfort. They're offering a sense of belonging.
When they visit Tom, it's so touching to see how their simple acts of kindness, a warm meal, shared stories, and a hand-knitted hat, begin to thaw the coldness that Tom feels inside.
And the moment with the sparklers is so symbolic, isn't it? It's a tiny, flickering light in the darkness that represents hope. For the first time in so long, Tom feels something other than sorrow. He feels a sense of joy and connection with others.
It's like they gave him a new family. Granny Edith had already made the decision to bring Tom into their home, showing him that family isn't just about blood. It's about those who choose to love and care for you.
That's such a beautiful message. In the end, the story isn't just about the pain of loss, but also about finding healing in unexpected places. The love that Emma and Granny Edith offer to Tom gives him a chance to rebuild and find a new sense of belonging.
Yes, it's a reminder that, even in our deepest grief, the love and kindness of others can help us heal. Tom learned that there's always hope, and that the people we choose to surround ourselves with can create a family that's just as strong as any blood tie.
Absolutely. It's a story that shows how the holiday season can bring not just warmth to a house, but also to the heart, reminding us that there's always room for new beginnings, even after loss. Let's continue by practicing how to use today's advanced phrases in conversation. These will help you sound even more fluent and expressive.
Sounds great. Let's start with blanketed the vast fields. Instead of saying, there was a lot of snow, you could say,
the first snow of the season blanketed the vast fields, transforming the landscape into a winter wonderland.
That's such a vivid description. Now for weave through the barren branches. Instead of saying, the wind blew through the trees, you could say,
the cold wind seemed to weave through the barren branches, making the trees sway and creak under its force.
That creates such a haunting atmosphere. Let's try the weight of grief and loss. Instead of saying, she felt sad, you could say,
the weight of grief and loss was overwhelming, each day feeling heavier than the last as she tried to navigate life without her loved ones.
That really conveys how heavy those emotions can be. Now for bottomless pit of loneliness. Instead of saying, he felt very lonely, you could say,
after the passing of his grandfather, Tom found himself sinking into a bottomless pit of loneliness, unable to escape the emptiness he felt inside.
That's so powerful. Next, let's try cherish those who are still with us. Instead of saying, be thankful for the people you have, you could say,
in moments of hardship, we often forget to cherish those who are still with us, but they are the ones who can help us heal.
That's such a meaningful reminder. Now, for found joy in small things. Instead of saying, she was happy about little things, you could say,
despite her struggles, Emma found joy in small things, like the smell of freshly baked cookies or the warmth of her granny's embrace.
That really shows how simple pleasures can make a big difference. Let's try, drove away the winter's chilled. Instead of saying, the fire made the room warm, you could say,
the crackling fire drove away the winter's chill, filling the room with a comforting warmth that seemed to embrace everyone who came near.
That's so cozy. Next, let's try a magical dance of colors. Instead of saying, the lights look nice, you could say,
the Christmas lights twinkled like a magical dance of colors, creating a spectacle of joy that lit up the entire village.
That really captures the festive spirit. Now for bound by the simple, powerful love. Instead of saying, they loved each other, you could say,
though they weren't related by blood, they were bound by the simple, powerful love that could overcome any obstacle and bring them together.
That's a beautiful sentiment. Lastly, for light the way. Instead of saying, they showed him what to do, you could say,
Granny Edith and Emma helped light the way, guiding Tom out of the darkness and into a future filled with hope and belonging.
These phrases are so impactful.
Exactly! Using these advanced phrases will help you sound more fluent and convey emotions more deeply. Keep practicing, and soon these expressions will become second nature. Today, we're going to practice using some new vocabulary words in conversation to make your English sound more expressive. Let's get started.
I'm ready. Let's begin with serene. Instead of saying, "It was calm," you could say,
The lake was serene, its still surface reflecting the clear sky like a mirror.
"That's such a peaceful image." Now for nestled. Instead of saying, "It was placed near," you could say,
The little cottage was nestled between the trees, hidden away from the hustle and bustle of the town.
"Let's so cozy." Let's try barren. Instead of saying, "There were no trees," you could say,
The barren landscape stretched for miles, the bare branches of the trees reaching towards the sky.
That paints such a stark image. Now for twinkling. Instead of saying, "The stars were shining," you could say,
The stars were twinkling in the night sky, their faint glow illuminating the darkness.
"That's such a beautiful scene." Next for modest. Instead of saying, "It wasn't fancy," you could say,
The little house was modest, with simple wooden furniture and a welcoming fireplace.
"That sounds so inviting." Now for vast. Instead of saying, "It was really big," you could say,
The vast desert seemed endless, with rolling dunes as far as the eye could see.
"That's an impressive way to describe size." Let's try glistened. Instead of saying, "It shone," you could say,
The snow glistened in the sunlight, sparkling like a field of diamonds.
"That's so magical." Now for contentment. Instead of saying, "She was happy," you could say,
She sat by the fire, a deep sense of contentment filling her as she watched the flames dance.
"That's so warm and satisfying." Now, let's try conconditional. Instead of saying, "He loved her a lot," you could say,
His love for her was unconditional, never wavering no matter what challenges life threw their way.
"That's such a powerful sentiment." Let's try flickering. Instead of saying, "The light was moving," you could say,
The candle's flame flickered in the breeze, casting dancing shadows on the walls.
"That creates such a cozy atmosphere." Now for awkward. Instead of saying, "He felt strange," you could say,
There was an awkward silence after her question, as everyone tried to think of the right answer.
"That's a perfect way to capture that moment." Next for melancholy. Instead of saying, "He felt sad," you could say,
A sense of melancholy lingered in the air as the last notes of the song faded away.
"That really conveys deep emotion." Let's try transform. Instead of saying, "It changed," you could say,
The old barn was transformed into a beautiful art gallery, filled with color and creativity.
"That shows such a dramatic change." Now for belonging. Instead of saying, "He was part of the group," you could say,
For the first time in years, he felt a deep sense of belonging among his friends.
"That's such a comforting feeling." Lastly for enduring. Instead of saying, "It lasted a long time," you could say,
Their enduring friendship had withstood the test of time, weathering all the storms life had thrown their way.
"That's such a strong bond."
Exactly. Using these vocabulary words in your conversations will help make your English more descriptive and expressive. Keep practicing, and soon they'll feel like second nature. Let's continue by practicing how to use today's advanced phrases in conversation. These will help you sound even more fluent and expressive.
Sounds great. Let's start with blanketed the vast fields. Instead of saying, "There was a lot of snow," you could say,
The first snow of the season blanketed the vast fields, transforming the landscape into a winter wonderland.
"That's such a vivid description." Now, for weave through the barren branches. Instead of saying, The wind blew through the trees. You could say,
The cold wind seemed to weave through the barren branches, making the trees sway and creak under its force.
that creates such a haunting atmosphere. Let's try the weight of grief and loss. Instead of saying, she felt sad, you could say,
The weight of grief and loss was overwhelming, each day feeling heavier than the last as she tried to navigate life without her loved ones.
that really conveys how heavy those emotions can be. Now for a bottomless pit of loneliness. Instead of saying, he felt very lonely, you could say,
After the passing of his grandfather, Tom found himself sinking into a bottomless pit of loneliness, unable to escape the emptiness he felt inside.
that's so powerful. Next, let's try cherish those who are still with us. Instead of saying, be thankful for the people you have, you could say,
In moments of hardship, we often forget to cherish those who are still with us, but they are the ones who can help us heal.
that's such a meaningful reminder. Now, for found joy in small things. Instead of saying, she was happy about little things, you could say,
Despite her struggles, Emma found joy in small things, like the smell of freshly baked cookies or the warmth of her granny's embrace.
that really shows how simple pleasures can make a big difference. Let's try, drove away the winter's chilled. Instead of saying, the fire made the room warm, you could say,
The crackling fire drove away the winter's chill, filling the room with a comforting warmth that seemed to embrace everyone who came near.
that's so cozy. Next, let's try a magical dance of colors. Instead of saying, the lights looked nice, you could say,
The Christmas lights twinkled like a magical dance of colors, creating a spectacle of joy that lit up the entire village.
that really captures the festive spirit. Now for, bound by the simple, powerful love. Instead of saying, they loved each other, you could say,
Though they weren't related by blood, they were bound by the simple, powerful love that could overcome any obstacle and bring them together.
that's a beautiful sentiment. Lastly, for light the way. Instead of saying, they showed him what to do, you could say,
Granny Edith and Emma helped light the way, guiding Tom out of the darkness and into a future filled with hope and belonging.
these phrases are so impactful.
Exactly, using these advanced phrases will help you sound more fluent and convey emotions more deeply. Keep practicing, and soon these expressions will become second nature. Today, we'll explore a conversation between Sarah and Nick.
Sounds interesting. What's their story?
They're lifelong friends who find comfort in simple moments, like sitting by the fire and watching the snow blanket the vast fields.
I like them already. Their conversations must be meaningful.
Exactly! Their dialogue explores themes of belonging, contentment, and enduring love.
The world looks so serene, blanketed in snow. It's as if everything has slowed down, giving us a moment to breathe.
It really is beautiful. The snow blanketing the vast fields makes everything feel so peaceful. Even the trees look like they're gently sleeping beneath a soft quilt of snow.
Exactly. It's hard to imagine the barren branches of the trees now, with their delicate frost covering them. They look like they could tell 1,000 stories.
There's something magical about it, especially with the twinkling Christmas lights reflecting off the frosted windows. It's like the whole world is decorated just for us.
Yes, the lights really add to the charm of this place. It feels so modest, but there's a warmth in the simplicity that makes it even more special.
The warmth of the crackling fireplace helps too. It feels like it drives away the winter's chill, doesn't it?
Definitely. And yet, I feel a deep sense of contentment, even in the cold. It's the joy in small things, like sitting here with you, watching the flames dance.
I feel that too. It's moments like these that remind me of the unconditional love we share. We're bound by that simple, powerful love, Sarah.
I agree. It's the kind of love that transforms everything. Even when life feels awkward or melancholy, it helps us keep going.
Speaking of transformation, remember when we first came here? The barren landscape seemed overwhelming, but now, with the snow-covered path before us, it feels like home.
That's true. And there's something timeless about it. Like the flickering of the fire, it's always there, no matter what happens.
You know, Sarah, it's so important to cherish those who are still with us. We've come a long way together, and our enduring connection makes all the difference.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Sometimes we get so caught up in what we don't have, but it's really about cherishing the moments that count.
Just like this sparkling winter night. The shimmering reflections on the snow make me feel like everything is possible.
It's the little things that make the biggest difference. The way we found joy in small things, even when the world around us felt like a bottomless pit of loneliness.
You're right. And looking around, I realize how lucky we are. We've created something beautiful here, something that lights the way forward.
Absolutely. These moments, this connection we have, it's a kind of warmth that will always light the way for us, no matter what challenges come our way.
I couldn't agree more. And no matter where life takes us, I know that we're always bound by this love. It's like a magical dance of colors, shifting yet constant.
A dance that will never end. We've built something that will last through the seasons, enduring as long as we keep nurturing it.
And in that, I find peace. Like the snow blanketing the vast fields, we've created something that will be here for years to come.
And no matter what happens, we've always had each other. That's the most precious thing of all.
To wrap up, here are some tips for using today's story, Warm Winter, to improve your English.
First, try shadowing. Listen to keywords like serene, belonging, or resilience and repeat them aloud, imitating the pronunciation and rhythm of the dialogue.
Second, try using the new phrases in your own sentences. For example, the snow-covered path glistened under the streetlights, or she gazed quietly at the flickering fire, feeling a sense of warmth in the harsh winter.
Don't forget to engage in conversations. Discussing themes from the story, like finding hope in difficult times, with a friend or language partner can help build fluency and confidence.
You can also practice writing a short summary of the story in your own words. This will help reinforce the vocabulary and improve your writing skills.
Finally, visualize the story while listening. Imagine the snow, the warmth of Granny Edith's cottage, and the sparklers lighting up the night. This can help you better understand descriptive language and emotions in English.
Keep practicing, and soon you'll be able to use these words and phrases naturally in everyday conversations. That brings us to the end of today's episode about warm winter.
We hope you enjoyed the story and found it both touching and inspiring. It's a beautiful reminder that family isn't just about blood. It's about love, support, and the people who choose to stand by you.
Absolutely. And it also shows how even the coldest winters can be warmed by kindness and connection.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to practice the new vocabulary and phrases we covered. Try using them in your own conversations or writing.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you won't miss our next story. We have plenty more heartwarming tales and useful English tips coming your way.
Thanks for listening, and remember, keep practicing, stay curious, and embrace the warmth of learning.
See you next time.
Bye.